Hey everyone, thanks for coming down today. We're going to go over some actionable SEO content marketing strategies. Just a little bit of my background. What companies have we worked for? We work for several high growth startups in Australia. We work for Campaign Monitor, Open Agent, Open Colleges. I've got a background working in corporate enterprise level SEO content marketing as well. Back many years ago, I started my own network of sites, which grew to 24 million unique visitors, which we sold off. So a little bit of history. Content, it's kind of a big deal. Basically, at the start of the year, for every business, you need to map out what's happening throughout the year. You need to sit down at the start of the year and you've got to think about every month. What's happening in every month? For example, in October, November, and December, key out the serious things that are happening. Example, Halloween, NRL Grand Final, Melbourne Cup, Christmas, and start planning this stuff at the start of the year. Start working out how you're going to develop content for your business for every month at the start of the year. Work out the resources for your business. Work out who's going to be able to kind of set up this content, who's going to make it happen. Here's an easy one to generate some content ideas. Just go onto Google and look at auto suggest. For example, if you've got a business, look at Campaign Monitor, put verse in, then look at what comes up. For example, Campaign Monitor versus MailChimp. Easily create a content asset around why Campaign Monitor is better than MailChimp. Because this is what customers that are in the buying cycle, this is the type of stuff they're looking for. Also use Google Keyword Planner, use auto suggest. It creates so many different ideas. It's what customers are actually searching for right now. This is a really great tool for content idea generation. It's called answerthepublic.com. Basically, you put in a keyword and it will tell you different blog titles and what people are searching for, and it will give you headline ideas. So definitely check out that for content idea generation. April Fool's content. If you're a business that wants to be a little bit risque, this is a must-have strategy. This is an example of a friend's business where they basically just made a fake press release and it had over 200,000 visitors to it. So many businesses get involved with April Fool's content. I think it's a good idea to just give it a shot, but if your business is a little bit scared of things like that, maybe don't go for it. Blog quizzes, this is an easy one. I mean, any type of business, you can develop some type of quiz around that. Also have shareability within that quiz. Facebook, Twitter, maybe even Google+, even though not many people are using it now. Weekly roundups of content. If you don't have an idea of how you're going to develop some content for a website, you can easily do a weekly roundup of what's happening in your industry. Basically, you can say, these are the 5 hot subjects that are happening this week. Link out to different websites and then reach out to that site and say, hey, we've featured you on our weekly roundup. People love sharing that in their email list, sharing it with friends. It's an easy thing that you can do on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis if you don't have that time. Survey-based data. This is a really cool one. There's a big startup in the US called Thumbtack. They do a US survey every year of all their customers. Basically, they pull that data together. You can do something like this for a cheap price using Google Consumer Surveys. Basically, you can pay $1 or 50 cents per survey entrant and collect data based on a demographic that you want to target and then build a content asset around that. It doesn't cost thousands of dollars to do this if you're savvy about how you roll it out. Ego bait roundups. This is an example of a piece of content we did for a client. Basically, top 10 Twitter users in the finance space. It's basically a list that we've aggregated to show who's hot in a space. And then you reach out to those influencers and you say, hey, we've listed you on our top 10 list. Most of the time, they'll be happy to kind of share that list and say, wow, I'm on a top 10 Twitter list. And it's easy traffic for your business because you're leveraging off their customer base. The only thing is, sometimes it's better to focus on mid-tier influencers. Because if you reach out to David Koch and say you're on a top 10 influencer list, he'll probably say, I don't care, I'm on every one of those lists. But if you go after more mid-tier influencers, you'd be surprised at how much traction you can generate. Expert interviews. This was an example of an interview we did on my website for an ex-member of Matt Cut's search quality team. It had over 20,000 visits to that interview. Basically, thinking about someone influential in your space and doing a Roundup interview, asking 10 questions, it has to be someone interesting. And you can do this in any profession, but it's good to target influencers. There's an example of one that Open Colleges did where they targeted a celebrity vet. Basically, you leverage off their base of customers, their followers, when they join in on the interview. You can do this in any industry. It doesn't matter what it is. Creative web application, death by caffeine. This had over 2,800 backlinks pointing to it. Basically, you put in your weight and how much caffeine it will tell you before it will kill you. This is a very basic app to develop. It would only cost a couple $100. You could even do it on freelancer.com. Basically, you put this type of app on your website and you can generate traction. People link back to it. It gets traffic. It's an easy win for your business. So just thinking of a creative web application, it's an easy content win. This is a really fantastic content example from a company called Sear Interactive in the US. Basically, it's a huge content asset. It's called a big content asset. You click on each company logo and it will show you how they actually make money. So you click on Facebook and it will pop up and show you how they make money. This had a huge amount of traffic and it had over 626 different sites linking back to it. This is an example of a content asset that really killed it. I think it cost them a considerable amount of money to make, a couple of thousand, but in terms of traffic and results, it was definitely worth it. Using your social media followers to build content. This was an example of something we did for a client. We basically reached out to their followers and said, what are your biggest pet peeves in the gym? We're going to build an infographic about it. Basically, everyone replied back. We generated a huge bunch of answers. Then we turned that information into an infographic. And then when we shared that infographic, we had all the social followers. They felt like they were part of the content creation process. Usually when people are creating content, they'll only talk in the marketing team, oh, what content should we do? That's a good idea. But when you use your consumer base and get them involved in the content, it creates an instant audience that can share that content. Don't be afraid to go onto Reddit and share content, but it has to be of a technical nature. If you get on Reddit and start spamming different things, they'll shut you down instantly. But if you have a technical piece of content, this was an example of one client that we generated 14,000 visitors to their site from having basically a Microsoft certification write-up on their education site, and we shared that through to Reddit, and people were happy to kind of share that. And it was very interesting because it resonated with their community. If you want to develop content for a different community, it has to be specific for that community. You can't just go on there and spam because they'll shut you down. These are two great tools to use for competitive insights, SEMrush and Ahrefs.com. Basically, you go on those tools. They're both paid, but you can usually get a free 30 or 60-day subscription to them. You go on there, you can put on your competitor's website. It will tell you where your competitors are generating links from. It will also tell you where your competitors have their top content assets from. So you can put your competitor's site in and it will say, these are the competitors' content that are getting the most links, that are getting the most social shares, etc., etc. So you can put on Canva, whatever, and see where they're getting the best content on their site. And you can pretty much replicate it or do something different that's similar. It's a great tool. They're both great tools. Deal websites, if you're in the e-commerce space, don't be afraid to use sites like OzBargain. We have a client in the cruise space and they go gangbusters on OzBargain. They generate thousands of visitors each month just from sharing their deals. The thing about OzBargain, you have to have good deals because if you go on there with a bad deal, you'll get shut down and torn apart. Also, if you're in fashion, don't be afraid to check out sites like Vogue. They have thousands of active users. And if you've got coupons, jump onto Retail Me Not. Whirlpool.net.au, it's one of the oldest forums in Australia, but you can generate thousands of visitors from there. There's an example of a thread. When you search for buy sunglasses online, Whirlpool shows up in 3rd position. If you have an active account on there and you've been resonating with the brand, you can get on there and join in on discussions, share your brand. Don't spam though, because if you get on there and start dropping links, you have to be active with the community. You have to help people out and say, oh, here's a great site that I'd love to share with you guys. I think it's relevant to this discussion. They were great service, etc., etc. You'd be surprised how much traffic you can generate off something like that. And Quora It's an easy win for anyone. There's so many discussions on there that are relevant to different businesses. Check it out, 100%. Emailing influencers and asking them to share content. You'd be surprised how many emails I get from people that just say, hey, can you share my article? Sometimes if it's good, I will share it. But don't be afraid to send an email to someone and say, can you share it? If they're a relevant influencer in your space, just reach out to them and say, hey, I've built this really great piece of content. Can you please share it? Because the worst thing they can say is no. Reviewing targeting influencers. So basically, this is another strategy that we've tried in the past that works quite well. You do like a book review, and then you reach out to the author of that book and get them to review it or share it. It's an easy win for site owners. I mean, so many sites do book reviews and things like that. Direct mail campaign. This was an interesting campaign that we tested on a site. Basically, we drew up a list of influencers, and then we sent out USB bottle openers to them, and then we'd actually see who would link back to us, could we get traffic from. You can roll this out to any industry. If you're targeting influencers, we have a client that does luxury dog collars. They target any celebrity that has a dog. They send the dog collar out to the celebrity and write a nice letter, say, here's the dog collar for Ruffy or whatever, and something like that. It will really resonate with that celebrity because they're getting smashed with all the generic kind of handouts. But when you have something that's really personalized, they'll be happy to share it. That was an example of all the influencers that basically jumped on the back of that direct mail campaign and were happy to share it. How do you find influencers? These are two really good tools to find influencers, buzzsumo.com and followerwonk.com. BuzzSumo is probably better because their tool only does influencer detection, whereas FollowerWonk's owned by Moz. They do numerous different tools. So if you want a laser targeted influencer detection tool, jump onto buzzsumo.com. SlideShare, jump onto that. If you have ever done a presentation or you have a piece of content, be 100% certain to upload it to SlideShare because you can get thousands of visitors for your brand easily on there. It's something that you have to jump on and you have to get on top of. Another thing you can do, if you've developed a great piece of content for your site, link it up onto your LinkedIn page and put it on sites like Medium, but only show 30 or 25% of the article, and then below that 25% to say, read the rest of my article on our site, because that way you give the readers a little bit of a teaser of content and then you drive them back to your site. It's an easy win. Here's some additional content promotion ideas. Basically, when you've finished a content production piece, a lot of brands make the mistake where they've done the content and then they just throw it on their site and they think that'll be the end of it. And usually it isn't that way. You have to promote it. And the thing is, there's different ways you can promote it. So you can go for the organic way, put it on your website, share it with your email list, share it on social media, post it on forums, SlideShare, even guest post it. Or you can go for a paid promotion content as well. So basically, post your content onto Google AdWords, share it on social ads, Facebook boost for that content. Don't be afraid to buy space on someone else's email list to share your content, because we've done that for numerous clients and it can work. If there's a B2B business blog out there that has an email list with 20,000 customers and you've got a great B2B focused content asset, ask to pay to promote it on their email list because it's easy promotion. Now we're going to jump into a quick few SEO tips. Some basic SEO elements: URL, social, on-page links, and anchor text. We're just going to go over this stuff pretty quickly because SEO is a huge topic. I could talk for 4 hours about SEO and I'd only be scratching the surface. Basically with SEO, you need to get your domain structure right. The top is an example of a fantastic URL structure where the bottom probably needs some work because it's got a lot of parameters in it. It's all jumbled up. You need to have URLs that are descriptive. You need to use keywords in your URLs. Also use subfolders when you're developing your URLs. The next one basically shows you what are the top ranking factors for SEO. The thing about SEO, link building and backlinks are still very important with SEO. They make up 40% of ranking. Then you've got page and keyword agnostic factors, other things like brand metrics, how many brand searches is your site getting, domain level keyword usage, social media, etc., etc. But the thing is, you need to get your backlinks right. On-page elements. What are some on-page elements that are important? You need to have a keyword in your title. You need to have a keyword in your meta description. You need to ensure that you're using an alt text. Things like what's the image file name? If you're just calling your images 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's not good because you're going to miss out the opportunity from Google image search. Call your image what it is based on the image. So if it's an image of a mobile phone, call it iPhone 7-S or whatever because that's a relevant description of your image. Are you using your keyword within the body text? And the thing about your keywords, when you're writing content, don't write like a robot. Make your content written for humans. Make it great content. Make it readable because you want people to actually share the content. This is a really great tool for scraping your website to look for technical SEO issues. It's called Screaming Frog. Search for it on Google. It's got a weird URL. It's like screamingfrog.co.uk. So just search for Screaming Frog on Google. Basically put your URL in there and it will tell you all your technical issues on your site. If you have any 404 pages, if you have any broken links, things like that. You can also put your competitors' websites in there as well to check out how optimized your competitors' sites are. The thing is you can get 500 pages worth of crawling for free, but if you want to crawl 500 to 50,000 pages, you need to pay. I think it's like $99 a year, so it's a very effective tool. Technical SEO is highly important. You need to ensure that you're getting your technical SEO right because it's going to impact on your rankings if you're not doing it effectively. And looking over tools like Screaming Frog, they're definitely going to help with that. This is another really great tool for social markup on your website. If your website isn't marked up for Facebook, Twitter, this tool will tell you. Basically, just go to smo.noam.com, put in your website, and it will tell you if your site is marked up or not. And if it's not marked up, it's pretty easy to drop the markup into your site. Schema Markup, schema.org. If you're an e-commerce site, you should have review markup, should have product markup with pricing information. You need to be utilizing schema.org on your site. It's crucial. Ensure that you're utilizing Bing Webmaster Tools. A lot of people say, what? Bing Webmaster Tools? I didn't even know that existed. But Bing Webmaster Tools will give you some great data for your website that Google doesn't give you. Also, you have to be on Google Search Console for your site. There are the two URLs there. Ensure that you get data from both of the tools. Finally, get website speed right. If you've got a website and if it's got a 1 second delay and it's making $100,000 a day, that's going to mean a 2.5 million loss in sales. So you can scale this to any degree. If your website makes $500 a day and it's 1 second delay, it's going to cost you in the long run. So yeah, if you've got any questions, shoot me a tweet at Connections8, or if you want to get the slides from today, if I talk too quickly or there was something in there that you didn't see but you want to go over again, shoot me an email and I can send the slides off to you. And yeah, are there any questions?